First thing that I want to talk about a little bit is prior to the mediation. What are the things that you can do to help set yourself up to be successful in a mediation? The first thing is recognizing when a mediation actually begins, and that is long before you ever get two people in the same room with each other. The mediation process actually begins as soon as you become aware of the fact that there's a conflict. Everything that you do from the point that you become aware of something is either going to make this process run much more smoothly or much more difficult. So what are the things that you can do? First of all, if someone comes to you and says that they have an issue, you want to sit down and listen to what their issues are, but then you also want to meet separately with the other person who's involved or the other people that are involved. And let them know that you're going to be hosting a mediation and ask them to tell you what their issues are as well. You don't really want to get into what the issues are with the other person. That's for them to do during the mediation. When you're meeting with both people separately or all people separately before the actual mediation, you want to explain to them what the process is. You want them to know that they have to bring their issues to the table, and then if they don't bring those issues to the table, then there isn't going to be an opportunity to deal with it. And ultimately you want to remind them, and we'll be visiting this question at the end as well, what do you need in order for this to be resolved? So that is the major question that you want to be asking those that will be involved in the mediation to be thinking about before they get to the table. And obviously we want them to keep an open mind. So the next part of the mediation is when you're actually sitting down with you. You're going to have a mediation partner, if you can have one, and also with the people who are involved in the mediation. You don't want a whole bunch of extra people in the room, so you want to keep it just between the people that are involved and you and your mediation partner. It's important to have a neutral location and not do it in their room. Sometimes RAs feel comfortable using their own room. You can use possibly the RA office depending on how much cover it offers, and as long as it's not something where everybody can see it in the room. Some RA offices are not set up ideally for this. You could use a closed-in study lounge or something along those lines as long as you post a note outside the door, but essentially you want a neutral location. Again, I mentioned you want a mediation partner. This could be another RA, and probably should be another RA so that you're not dragging other students into a process. Essentially, that mediation partner is there to kind of just be an additional presence. They can witness what's going on in the room. They're not necessarily there to participate or help in the mediation other than to kind of being a calming presence and maybe helping you take notes if need be. You want to have a pen and paper, and you want those who are involved in the mediation to also have a pen and paper. Very important for you to have one because you're going to be doing a lot of writing things down. It's important for them to have a pen and paper simply because if the other person is talking, and you'll see in a moment, they're not going to have an opportunity to speak right away, so you want them to be able to jot down some notes. Before you get into the heart of the mediation, you want to make sure that you establish some ground rules. And just so you know, some of my personal ground rules whenever I go into a mediation is that there's no swearing, no name calling, only speak for yourself, and don't drag other people's issues to the table. Get all of the issues out on the table now. My philosophy is if you don't bring it up now, then it's not going to be brought up. Don't speak while someone else is speaking. You will definitely have your turn. And initially, I like everybody to be speaking to me first and not necessarily to each other. So when they're in the issues part of it, I like them to speak to me first. And then we will let them know, you'll let them know when it's their turn to speak. You can obviously come up with your own list of things, and the whole no swearing thing might come as a shock to some of you because you might have heard me swear before, but it's not because I don't like swearing. It's simply because sometimes these are very tense situations, and swearing can elevate people's stress level. Just the swear word itself can elevate a stress level. So we're trying everything we can do to keep this as a calm situation. So you want to let them know that your role is here to help them and to help them come up with a resolution. Your role is not there to be resolving their issue. We call this the mediation dialogue. It's not really a dialogue at first, actually. You're going to ask the first person, usually that's the person who came to you first, to kind of start talking about and listing what their issues are. And basically you're going to let them do a verbal run-on. You want them to get everything out there, how they're feeling about everything, what the specific issues are, and you're going to be writing things down. This is not a time for the other party to respond. This is not a time for giving the other party an opportunity to say anything at this point in time. They're going to have their opportunity to get all of the issues out. So after you've exhausted the first person and allowed them every opportunity to get all of those things that they are having an issue with out, then you want to talk to the second party and say, okay, what are the issues that you have? And make it very clear that this is not a time for response to the first person. This is a time for them to list their own issues. Then we get into the second part of the mediation, which is where you're going to begin to restate what you have kind of written down, and you want to simplify and clarify what your perception of the issues they've brought forward. You don't want to restate every single word that they've said. But that's why writing these things down and having you as a third party listen to what their issues are, you can see things often more clearly than they can. So you want to restate for each party what you heard them saying as far as the basic issues that they've brought to the table. You want to give them a chance at that point to either let you know whether or not you're correct or if you've missed something major. But at that point in time, you want to give them an opportunity to begin to look for ways in which you're going to begin to start getting them to talk to each other. Can we stop? Verbal run-on. You are going to restate to them for simplification and clarification of what the issues are. You don't want to be repeating back every single word that they said, but you want to hit on what the major topics and major issues are in a simplified manner. You want to get them to buy into what it is that you're saying, so you want them to confirm what you're saying is accurate, but then at this point you want to start to give them a chance to respond to those issues. So at first you are making the outline of the issues, you're actually going to make a list for each person, and then at this point in time you're going to move into the resolution phase of where you give each person a chance to respond to the issues. And at this point, depending on how they're feeling about everything, you can begin to get them to respond to each other and maybe not speak to you. If you can't get them to speak to each other, then you need to go back and repeat the dialogue phase. But by this point in time, you should be able to ask them, what do you need to have happen in order for this to be resolved? And they should be telling you the things that they need to have happen. And once again, you're going to be writing those things down. Using your active listening skills as they're telling you something, repeating it back to them, and perhaps simplifying what they're asking for. And then at that point in time, you can begin to ask each party for agreement on both sides and put in writing what it is that they are agreeing to. At that point, the rest of the process kind of wraps up in more of an organic way. There's no real time or real way where you say, okay, well, this has come to a close. You are going to want to end this process when you feel comfortable. Everybody's gotten their issues out. Everyone has agreed to what needs to happen in order for it to be resolved. You have a document that you can put in writing. And then after this, after the mediation is done, then you can follow up with them. Couple of different reasons you want to follow up. First of all, you want to have them sign the document, so maybe you need an hour to go back and type everything out. You're going to want to have them kind of check in with you and let you know how everything is going. Is everything okay in the room? Have you guys resolved this, that, or the other thing? And you want to do so intermittently. It's not just a one-time thing, but you want to check up with them regularly. And follow-up also needs to happen with your residence director. So you need to make them aware of the times when you need to have a mediation, the fact that you had it, and what the outcome was, and also give them a copy of your mediation resolution agreement. Thank you very much.